Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in pints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who is a parchment Renaissance painting of Frank. It's Frank. How are you today?
I am your nemesis.
That's wonderful. You know, I actually don't have a nemesis. I've been in the market for one. So
Look no further.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I will look no further than... No, I can't do that. It's weird doing a staring contest on a Zoom call. Like, it's just like, are you frozen, or is the audio still going? What's happening? Anyway, Frank, we are here to talk Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the sequel to
Across
the Spider-Verse. We're the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Yes. It's going to be the Homecoming, No Way Home, Home Far Away, Home Fly Away Home.
Yes.
Like they're too close together. I need differentiation. Or just
Spider-Man
numbers.
Home Alone. Yeah.
Just numbers. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, number 1, number 2, number 3.
There you go.
That would have been helpful. But anyway, we're here to talk Across the Spider-Verse, which came out several weeks ago. Frank and I are finally getting around to talking about it because we're dads. But also because we're doing a show called Beer with Geeks, we have a beer with us today. So what are you drinking, my friend Frank?
Well, you know, this movie, getting to get back reacquainted with these characters and everything was like an old, it's like seeing an old favorite, an old friend's old favorite. And it was a classic. And so I'm actually not drinking beer today, but it is a classic. It is Jack and Coke in a can. Jack Daniels and Coca-Cola teamed up.
I saw this the other day at the zoo, weirdly enough.
Yeah. Funny.
Yep.
And
that's wild. Is it good?
Yeah. It's the best Jack and Coke. It's the perfect ratio, like the perfect blend.
Fascinating.
So, yeah, it's fantastic.
I'm interested about the carbonation of Jack, like, over time being in the can. It doesn't matter.
No.
Wow.
I mean, it's as carbonated as you would expect it to be. This one happens to be the Coke Zero Sugar version, but they make the regular Coke version as well. Yeah, it's exactly. I mean, it tastes like a Jack and Coke you get at a bar or something. Like, it tastes like a legit Jack and Coke.
Wow.
And they have obviously the formula tuned in perfectly, dialed in perfectly, and it's great. It's the perfect ratio of Jack Daniels to Coke, and it goes down a little too easy. But it's fantastic. 7% alcohol. And it's a delight if you like a Jack and Coke. So I recommend it if you can. I doubt that I feel like this will probably be a limited edition thing. So I would, if you see it and you like Jack and Coke, grab one.
I used to work with a guy that was his go-to drink whenever he went out was Diet and Coke, and Diet and Jack and Diet, and everybody knew it. Everybody, like kids knew it, alumni knew it, teachers knew it, and it was like his signature drink. Even if you had never gone drinking with him, you knew that was his drink. Yeah, what a guy! I loved him.
If I had to guess, the next thing they'll do is like Jack and Ginger.
Sure.
I guess Jim Beam already does that. Does whiskey ginger in a can that's Jim Beam, obviously. And I wouldn't be surprised if Coke
followed suit.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's so interesting. What it would have been in on those meetings, like.
I know, right?
Like, because like who manufactures and so like and then who gets share of the profits at different points and like all
True,
that
yeah.
stuff, right? You know, like because they're two different companies selling one product, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
That's true. Yeah. I wonder what the business arrangements are.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
My beer, my drink is a beer, and it is much less complicated than yours. It is a Samuel Adams Take-A-Day IPA. It's refreshing. It's juicy. It's about to be clicked open. Yeah, and it's good.
Love it.
It's a good summer IPA. It's not too dry. Nice orange peel in there. Yeah, it's good. Actually, it's really not dry at all. Like, it's pretty fascinating. Like, as far as IPAs go, like, you know, sometimes you have an IPA and you're like, well, now I need 7 glasses of water because I just drank a pine cone or something.
Yes.
Yeah, but I do not find that with Take-A-Day.
It's actually kind of like, it kind of quenches your thirst.
It's pretty
in a
refreshing
way.
as far as IPAs go, and I don't find that most IPAs quench my thirst in any stretch of the imagination. Right? You know what quenches my thirst for quality superhero content though is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. How's that for a segue?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Listen, now that this movie is out, I'm gonna go on record and say something that is pretty hot.
Ooh, okay. I'm ready.
I think Into the Spider-Verse is overhyped.
Into the Spider-Verse is overhyped.
Into the Spider-Verse is overhyped.
Okay.
It's good. It's overhyped. I loved Across the Spider-Verse.
I loved Across the Spider-Verse.
I loved it. From beginning to end, not a second went by where I thought, oh no, this isn't working for me at any stage.
Same.
It only ramped until, I'll say, spoiler free, the end. I wasn't expecting in so much in that, like, I didn't know that it was, I guess this isn't really a spoiler because the third one's already been announced, that it's like, they Empire Strikes Back, they Empire Strikes Backs it, or they, Dead Man's Chest it, you know, like whatever. It ends on a cliffhanger. And I just wasn't.
Empire's Chest.
Yeah, Empire's Chest, right. And they
Dead Man's Strikes Back.
Dead Man Strikes Back. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
I think that's just I know what you did last summer, I'm pretty sure. Dead Man Strikes Back. Or any of those movies, really. Any of those. But those are just all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Dead Man Strikes Back.
Or any zombie movie.
Right, Dead Man Strikes Back. So I just wasn't, I was like thinking like, how are they going to wrap this? I'm like, what am I watching? I'm like, this is a long movie.
Same.
Like,
I was like, I got to think we're getting to the end here, and it feels like we're reaching a climax, but I can't see how we're going to wrap it up in 10 minutes.
Yep, and it just doesn't. And I just thought that was pretty... not knowing that at the end, I was getting annoyed that it wasn't wrapping because it was getting so close to the end. And then that happened. I was like, I'm an idiot. I should have known that. So
that makes much more sense.
Yes, it does. So yeah, I liked the first one. I liked the first one when it came out, but I think as a fan, like I don't want to say like a real comic fan, but I'm a real comic fan. Like still read weekly, you know, like 15 years of reading books on a weekly basis. Like, so like when movies come out that are like, it's multiple versions of Spider-Man. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, you know, like
I'm familiar with the concept. Thank you.
Yeah. Like, and so like even seeing it in a movie or a TV show, whatever, it doesn't really feel fresh to me because I'm very used to the concept, especially when it's presented like, you've never seen anything like this before.
Sure.
I assure you I have. Like, you know, and so that just kind of annoys me. And so this movie didn't really wear itself like that. It was like, you're already familiar with the concept of the multiverse, so now we can just have fun with it.
Yeah.
And that's why I think was my big takeaway from this movie. Like, it's just like in the comic subgenre, you know, like that was my takeaway.
That makes a lot of sense. Into the Spider-Verse had, you know, I'm so used to just referring to the movie as Spider-Verse over the last 5 years that now you have to call it Into the Spider-Verse specifically. But Into the Spider-Verse, you're right, had to do a lot of laying the groundwork and setting it up, and for people who are already familiar with those concepts, it's like, yeah, I get, okay, yes, I understand that there's multiple spiders, man. Thank
right,
you.
Yeah, and that really was not a takeaway on like how quality the animation was, or the voice acting, or the Miles' arc, or Peter's arc, or whatever. Like, all good. It just the concept was not mind blowing to me.
Right.
And so,
and so, I mean, I thought, look, I loved that movie. I loved that movie, and I thought it was going to be hard to live up to it, let alone top it. And I think this movie it tops it. I mean, but it's close, right? Like it doesn't blow it out of the water, because like you're to me, because you're dealing with something that was so good already, it's hard to blow it out of the water.
To go back, it's New Hope to Empire. Like,
yeah,
it's like Empire does not blow New Hope out of the water. New Hope is still amazing. Correct. In its own way. It's just doing a different thing.
Yeah.
But that thing is still really good.
Really good. And it like edges it out, right? It's like a race to the finish, and one wins by a nose. It's not like a far and away. But Across the Spider-Verse I thought was fantastic. I think what really struck me in this movie, similar to Into the Spider-Verse, but what really struck me this time was the way they made use of different animation styles.
Yes. 100. And it goes hard on that early, right? Because the movie starts with Gwen, and she battles a Renaissance vulture, and I just loved it. Like, it's, like you watch a movie, and like a couple minutes in, you're like, I love this.
Yes.
Yeah. And then so like the movie just has you from that moment, and you just really hope that like it doesn't dip from there, right? It only at least stays the same, and that's how I don't get that a lot, but I felt that with Renaissance Vulture. I was like, I love this.
Yeah,
this is so fun.
Even though we were seeing something new, it felt comfortable, and that's kind of what I was when I was kidding around about the Jack and Coke. Like, it is something familiar and comfortable, and in the best way, like where it's something that I know I already love, and I'm getting to experience more new content in this world that I already love. There are few movies that really do that, really give me that feeling, and this was one of them.
Yep, I agree. Let's just say we're going to talk spoilers from here on out, just for the sake of it. I was a big fan about how this movie's about parenting. Big fan.
Yeah,
this movie's hardcore about parenting, and like I know that doesn't necessarily reach all of our audience, or even all of this movie's audience. But like that registered really hard, like for me, like because it's not just, oh, his parents happen to be there as characters. Like, it's also about the son that they're raising and how they're raising him. And, like, you can understand, like, it allows time. It's not like the parent's perspective is wrong and Miles is obviously correct.
Yeah.
That is not the way that this movie treats its parents. Not Miles's parents, not Gwen's dad. Like, it's not Peter, right? Because you get like different parenting styles in here, because Peter has Mayday now, which I loved, which was great.
Loved.
Like, in retrospect, I should not have made it to the web shooters or whatever it is, like I just love, like, I love that, like, B characters or minor characters have a soul or have like a life in here, that the movie, even though it's really meant for kids, takes its time. Like, it really takes its time. This is over 2 hours. It's a kids movie. It's impressive almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really loved the stuff with Miles's mom. Like those conversations were really, really, because you and I are both in the same phase of life where we're still new parents, relatively new parents, and so it's still that was very poignant. That was very poignant to see her as the mother of a teenager, and all of the concerns that she expressed, and all of the way that she talked to him, not at him. Yeah, it was a really It's like that's the kind of parent that I want to be.
Well, even just like kind of they're like slightly older school values where like their like thing is like, oh, you're using our first names. Like, you know, like, and they're like, you know, never take anybody home that like calls us by our first names. And
yes,
here's Gwen. Oh yeah. And I love that because I think about even like when I introduce my daughter to people, like I do call people by their first names. I say
sure.
like if you're not Uncle Frank or, you know, whatever, I think like, oh, this is, I don't know, you know, Bruce or Christy
sure.
or, you know, like whatever. And I like, but like, when should I start introducing somebody as Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so?
Yeah, right.
Because like the world is shifting away
right.
from that.
Yeah.
But like not everybody has shifted. So it actually even like raised questions like that. Like the world shifts away from particular things and not particular things. And when is that okay? And when is that not okay? And yeah, I just like, but it all did it with Spider-Man fighting the Spot. Like, and
yeah,
which so just so we're clear, I loved the Spot in this movie, but I was a Spot stan when I was a kid.
Oh,
yeah, Spot is one of like my top 5 favorite Spider-Man villains.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there was a Spot episode, 1 or 2 episodes of the Spot in the 90s on the Fox TV show. And, like, same thing, portals, you know, the whole 9 yards, you know, science experiment gone wrong. And I was just fascinated by that character, by the teleportation, by it being in his body, by, like, throwing a punch and you end up punching yourself and all that. Spot action figure, like, the whole 9 yards. And so, like, for the Spot to be the villain here and for him to be like, I'm not a joke. Please, God, take me seriously as his character arc. Plus Jason Schwartzman, I'm like,
yes,
I was so on board all like the entire time. And because I just like, not that I like need people to take the Spot seriously, but like, I always found him to like the name is dumb, but I don't care. All their names are dumb. Superman is not a good name. Like,
right.
Like,
come on.
Yeah, it's like what did it say? Was it? Oh yeah, in the Flash, right, where he's like Superman's like a little on the nose, like you call yourself Batman. I don't call myself Super Batman, like you know, like so, like it's like they're all their names are dumb. Like one of our favorite heroes' name is Green Lantern.
Come on,
Lantern. Like you just roll with it. It's all good. So I was a big fan of how the Spot was done, his characters, his motivation, animation, the whole thing. Yeah. What about you? You say words.
Yeah, let's talk about the animation. I loved the way that they did this in the last movie too, right? Like the different animation styles, different characters representing different animation styles, but the way that they combined them, like in the last movie we had like 5 spider people at the same time, but like here we had dozens, hundreds in the same shot, all with their unique art styles, all with their and they really went took that to a new level in this movie. I love like Gwen and her dad, like it's all watercolors and the colors change based on the mood of the conversation they're happening. And
I didn't notice
that they're having.
That's very cool. I did not notice that.
So cool. Yeah. Like the backdrops sort of shift and they get lighter and darker depending on the tone of the conversation. And I'm blanking on the Spider-Punk.
Yeah. Spider-Punk.
Yeah. I loved that character was probably my favorite in the movie, but like his animation was like newspaper cutouts, you know, very much like Sex Pistols album cover.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and apparently, and I didn't realize this, I just heard this a little while ago, that different parts of his body were animated at different frame rates.
That's cool.
Like they really gave a lot of like thought and attention.
Down with the system, even the way that he moves.
Yeah,
down with the
yes, exactly. System. Everything. Yep. The most punk rock thing you could do. So yeah, I just love that the way that they did that. You know, in the last movie, I think, you know, you had Spider-Man Noir and you had Peter Porker, and you know, here we had Peter Parked Car.
Right. There was Lego Peter, which was animated by a 14-year-old kid.
Yes. Okay. I was wondering if you knew about that.
Did. Yeah. He made YouTube videos online. They saw him and he was like, "Yes, please come animate this for us."
And I love the thought of a 14-year-old.
Yeah. Also put good J.K. Simmons cameo.
Yes. Lots of J.K. Simmons.
Yep.
I heard him a couple of times.
Yep.
Throughout. And then we're already talking spoilers, right? So like,
yes.
You had the stock footage of, or the archival footage of Andrew Garfield and Toby and Uncle Ben from Toby's movie. Like, I loved seeing that woven. Donald Glover.
Yeah, I loved that. That was cool.
Loved that.
That was cool. And what I thought was so interesting is that it all felt correct. Like, even seeing live action Donald Glover talking to animated Miles, obviously it could have gone in the direction of like Dick Van Dyke Dancing with Penguins. It just didn't, which feels right in its own way.
Yes.
But it just didn't feel like that. It just felt like it just was all like,
it just
obviously naturally part of the hub here.
In the same, when you're looking at a movie where already there's multiple different animation styles in the same frame, to have animation and live action is just a natural extension of that, really. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just two different visual styles. But yeah, they didn't, and it's like, they don't even acknowledge it to one another. You know what I mean? They're not like, "Hey, you're a cartoon," or "Hey, you're different. You look different." Like, it's just, they don't see that the way we see it, I guess.
No, it's just all, it's like when the Simpsons crosses over with Family Guy or whatever. It's like,
sure,
doesn't matter. Like, none of it matters. It's all good.
Right.
Yeah. What I did like about this movie is that it didn't forget its first movie, right? Like, there's a clear extension of these characters and how they're growing, and like, even like small things like Miles's roommate. Is it supposed to be Gonke? I can't. Yeah, right. It is Gonke, right?
I don't remember the name, to be honest with you.
I think it is, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. But like, you know, like, and who he is and what he looks like now, and like all this, like everything is like moving. Like, yeah, it is Gonke. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like everything is like, the world is moving on, and you know, instead of it being stagnated from place to place. Like, Miles is obviously older, but like all of the Spider-Verse things, like universes, also like have a trajectory and also move on. I don't know. I'm having a hard time articulating what I'm trying to say here. So I got nothing. It's okay.
Well, yeah, I think I get what you mean in the sense that like, they didn't stay in one, like everything has been moving forward. In the 5 years that we haven't seen I don't think 5 years have passed in the story, but still, like, time has moved on, things have changed. Everybody's moving forward character wise in their stories, but also like in the way the film was made and the look and the feel of it.
Yeah,
like they didn't just sort of rest on their laurels. They were like, how can we keep pushing?
Right.
And doing new things.
Obviously they did new things. Like, it was like, I'm impressed with the animation from the first one. This one blew my mind. Like,
yeah.
Some of the way that what's the Indian Spider-Man, Mumbai Spider. I can't remember his. I can't remember his.
Yeah.
But all that stuff was out of this world. It was so incredible to watch, and it never feels like the movie's showing off. Like, everything has its purpose in the way that it's shot. But what I was going to say is that like Uncle Aaron being the Prowler was so formative to Miles that the movie makes sure that it's not just Donald Glover in a Prowler suit, right? By the end of the movie, right? That like cameo serves a purpose to remind you of the like omnipresence of even Uncle Aaron, who, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you could cameo anybody, you know, but you like selected a cameo for like a particular character that's important to Miles.
Exactly.
That's what I really liked that very, very much. Because like you could have cameoed anybody. You could have cameoed what's his name playing Kraven the Hunter, right? You know, like as that movie's coming out, or the Madam Web movie, or like you could have done anything, but like they went for something that we'll never see on the big screen, probably.
Right.
But because it was important not to Peter Parker or to Gwen Stacy, but to Miles, and I liked that a lot. Yeah, I like the whole thing. The cliffhanger. Did you like it? Did you not?
I loved it actually, and I don't normally go for that. I'm typically kind of a curmudgeon about those sorts of things, but I actually really loved it because I was so bought into the story, and I was like on the edge of my seat, and then to have it be a cliffhanger, and you know, at that point remembering like, oh, I guess there is a third movie coming, isn't there? But I was so like bought in on. I was really, really invested in Gwen in this movie.
Me too.
Whereas in the first movie, I was more, invested in all the characters, but more so in Miles. But I was really invested in Gwen in this movie. And by the end of it, I mean, like Gwen got to be such a badass the whole movie that I was really, really like really enjoying her, really rooting for it. Kind of at points felt like her movie. And I mean that in a good way.
Yeah, I think the movie starting with her makes it pretty.
Yeah,
like it's a strong statement that it is in some ways partly her movie.
It's
a shared movie now.
Correct. Yeah. And I loved that. I like have like a low key crush on the character. You know what I mean? Like just really, really, totally loved it. And so I loved the cliffhanger for that reason.
What I actually really liked about the other Spider-Man, or particularly Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, is that he's like, the movie kind of sets it that like they're antagonists, but they're really not. They're foils, which I appreciated. Like they're making a clear, distinct difference between like why they're trying to stop Miles versus like what Miles is to the universe. So because the canon events of like there are particular events, the death of Uncle Ben, death of Captain Stacy, whatever. These things happen across all not Captain Stacy, you know, that happen across all universes. But Miles is unique, right? And I like that. Although it does kind of bother me that like they have all these different media versions of all these different Spider-Men, but they're like, but ignore the fact that Miles is in a comic book and a video game, even though we saw the video game Spider-Man right over there. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But Miles, this is the unique one. Like it was like, but play by your own rules.
Yeah, I guess. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Like fair. That was the only thing that I think like really was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense.
Sure.
Because there are multiple Mileses out there. You can't help it. Pretty sure. Yeah. But I like that. I like the canon event thing. I think it's, I don't know. I think it's like I know. I can't remember. So maybe our friend Vactor that said or maybe my friend Bobby. I can't remember. Said that they didn't like that it was called a canon event. Like it was too on the nose. Like canon is for comics and whatever else. But I liked it. I liked it. Here's a term. Like we introduced you to the multiverse, and now let us introduce you to canon.
And we kind of got that. You know, I remember one of my takeaways from the first movie was that Uncle Aaron dying, you know, is obviously like Uncle Ben dying. And that it's like, wow, you know, even if it's not Uncle Ben, every Spider-Man has to lose an uncle. Like that's a part of what's baked into like what makes them a spider person, not always man. Yep. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the things that is a part of the DNA of these characters is like they got to lose their uncle. And now putting a name on that, calling it a canon event, like, okay, cool, I get that. That's part of, in Doctor Who they call those fixed points in time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't roll off the tongue the same way. Canon event sort of says what it is right off the bat, right? Like it's a canonical event that needs to happen for the story to play out the way that it's supposed to play out.
To me, canon event is going to become one of those terms that we use like variant. Like,
I agree.
That's a variant of that character.
I agree.
But canon, because it's exactly what I need to talk. Like, it's the term that I need to talk about. This scenario.
Yeah, it's a concept that we already have. I mean, if you're a comic book fan, like that, whenever there's a retelling of a story or new version of the same characters,
Peter
or
Parker's
whatever,
always bitten by a spider.
Exactly. There are tent poles, let's say, that carry across every version of the story, and to call them canon events, I agree. I think that's going to catch on, and it's going to be one of those terms that everyone starts to use, and maybe no one even remembers anymore where it came from in a few years. Maybe,
but I feel like the Spider-Verse, like it's good, So
I just mean like the term bucket list didn't exist before that Jack Nicholson Morgan Freeman movie, The Bucket List.
Sure.
And no one seems to remember that anymore.
Yeah,
even though that's only like 15 years ago or something, 20 years ago.
But that we just keep using.
We just keep using it. It's just part of the lexicon now. Gaslighting. I think more people have used that term than ever saw the movie Gaslight.
Absolutely, which is a great movie. Highly recommend.
Yeah, fantastic movie. Yeah. First appearance of Angela Lansbury.
Really? I did not know that.
She's the maid.
I knew that she was in it. I didn't know it was her first appearance.
Her first role, she was like 19 years old.
Fascinating. She looked almost exactly the same, which is wild.
I know, right?
Yeah, like when you see different people and you're like not Judi Dench, but Maggie Smith, and you're like, you look the same forever.
Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No.
But yeah, I think canon event is a very useful term that will catch on. I hope so. Anyway.
Me too.
Yeah. It's not out yet, but a conversation that we had with our friend Vactor that'll drop in another week or two. We used that term extensively because it's just such a good term.
It is. The whole conversation is predicated actually on that term, really. So
exactly.
It's just wonderful. Any final thoughts on Spider-Verse?
Oh man, so much
across the Spider-Verse.
Right? I know, right? Like
that's tough.
Yeah. I'm excited for Beyond the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm.
They did a really good job of doing the cliffhanger, the middle chapter, in a way that was still very satisfying, and really left you wanting more. Didn't leave, as much as I was like, okay, they got to tie this up in the next 10 minutes or whatever. I was very satisfied with it in the end. It was such a good, like, oh, you got me, and okay, I'm here. I'm here. Like next March, I will be here. I'll be back here in this same seat to see the conclusion. I wish it was sooner. I wish it was like, Across the Spider-Verse in June and then Beyond the Spider-Verse in like December, like a Christmas release for the second part, just because it is a part 2. They were originally Across the Spider-Verse parts 1 and 2.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. So I because it is quite literally a part 2, I wish that it were like 6 months away and not almost a year away, but that's just, that's a sign of a good movie that I want to see how it is.
I absolutely agree. Did you have a favorite cameo this time around? Because there was a few or like fun, cute thing that they did.
J.K. Simmons was one that I heard his voice throughout a bunch of times. And did we see?
No, he's definitely on or you can hear him in.
You hear
Miles'
him a bunch of times.
World,
you hear it's a voice cameo
in the Lego. And I don't think we saw him though.
No, I don't think we did. I did. I didn't catch this, but someone mentioned Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio.
Really?
Was somewhere in there? Yeah. I would put it to. I would say J.K. Simmons or like the live action cameos. What about you?
This one's it's not their best cameo, but I think it's the one that's weirdly stuck with me the whole time because it's funny. Is when the Spot goes into the convenience store that's run by the lady from the Venom movies. When she doesn't react at all, and he's like, "You're like weirdly calm. Like this happens, like something weird like this happens to you all the time, and she's just like nothing. And I'm like, because I don't think the Venom movies are good, like almost at all. Like, you know, but like I found that
was funny,
highly amusing. Yeah,
yes, that was like very. I forgot about that. Another live action,
other Spider-Man-ish movies. Don't forget.
Yeah. Sony keeping it within the family. You know.
Yeah. I kind of like that one. Yeah.
That was good. Yeah. Now, man, they really know what they are doing with these films, and I'm so glad that the first one was the success that it was, so that we could get more of them.
Yep, me too. Yep, because they're only gonna at least meet my expectation of this one, I guess. You know, and then I'll be very satisfied. So
yeah, the Lego thing. The funny thing about that is that it's Lord and Miller made the Lego movie, and they also worked on this movie.
That's funny.
So I love the through line there.
That is good. So tell the people where they can find us if they are interested in more. You know, when you're ready. You know.
Sure. Well, if you're not in the Spider-Verse, you can find us on the web. Not the spider web, but the World Wide Web at beerwithgeeks.com or thoughtbubbleaudio.com. You can support us at patreon.com/thoughtbubbleaudio. If you want to help make these shows continue to happen, you can find us in any podcast app or directory. Just search Beer with Geeks. You're probably listening to us in one of them right now. Please subscribe and rate and review us in that app. And be sure, leave a review or email us at beerwithgeeks@gmail.com.
All right. Well, I mean, that's easy enough. Beerwithgeeks.com, thoughtbubbleaudio.com, all good places to go to find more things. Frank, a pleasure to talk to you, as always. So until next time, cheers.
Cheers.